So this is the bike, the BMW S1000Rr that everybody knows about, but yet they know nothing actually about this bike. Because when you ask certain people about this bike, they couldn't tell you anything about it. All they can tell you is it's a fast bike. It's a great track bike. It's got this, it's got that, but they don't know nothing about its history. And I'm here to tell you everything about this bike, because this bike I know only too well. Now, this right here is the Gen 1 S1000Rr. Now, for many of you don't know, some of you probably will know this already. This bike, when it was debuted, it broke history. It basically reshaped the motorbike industry forever, because it was the first bike, one with race ABS, traction control, a quick bike that was pushing 195 bhp, 195 bhp. It was so quick around the track, nobody knew what to do. And when you think of when these first come out in 2010, there was nearly no bikes that had everything this did. This set raised the bar for all other manufacturers with everything it had, and the way it performed, the way it handled for such a light bike. It was one of the lightest 1000cc bikes in its class. You couldn't find anything that could touch this. Secondly, many of you don't know this. The engine that is in the Gen 1s was derived from the GSXR 1000 K5s. A lot of people won't be aware of that, but what BMW did was took one of Suzuki's engines, tore it down, looked at everything they did to make them race engines, and then BMW developed their own. Now, unfortunately, because of that status, a lot of these bikes fell into the wrong hands, and being fallen into the wrong hands, a lot of these, you see it all over the place, are blowing up, having rods go through the block, blowing holes through the block. And why is that? Because the inexperienced, immature riders who don't understand how the mechanicals work of an engine. You get a lot of people who will remap these. You also get a lot of people who will hammer the fuck out of these. And when I say hammer them, I mean hammer them from cold. They don't even give them a chance to warm up. They will make them bounce off the red line from cold. That is one of the reasons, I was very popular for this. I was asking for this for many years. BMW, listen, because I'm always in contact with them. On cars, they put rev limiters, because I was crying and asking about put rev limiters on M cars. It had to be fitted, because people were destroying the rod bearings on that. That's how E60 M5 rod bearings were going out, M3s were going at E93 M3s. And I did not stop speaking about that subject until BMW listened. Now you see, on the M1000Rrs, on the S1000Rrs, on the Gen 5, Gen 4s, there is a rev limiter that you cannot thrash that bike until it's warmed up. It now controls you, but that should have been fitted from many years ago, even on these. I was always one of the probably strongest advocates for that, on forums, on pages, on my YouTube channel, for everything, for having a rev limiter, and BMW took it in. Because I do not believe people should be allowed to thrash their bike or car from cold. It's plain and simple, because you've got too many stupid people. It's also very, very harmful for the engine, and it's also just going to affect the warranty as well. So BMW were having to cough up a load of money out of warranty claims because of people being immature about these, thrash them to no end, and then expecting BMW to fork out the bill to rebuild the engines or put a new engine in them, when it all come down to owners' problems and the owner doing neglect on them. Missing oil changes, not checking the oil, not checking for leaks, hammering the crap out of them, when that shouldn't have been the case. But these bikes are very, very powerful. Make no mistake about it. Okay, this is not one, this is one of two that we own, but I do like the black one, and I feel like the black one has more appeal, because I do use my white one over here a lot, especially on my other channel, and especially on, I will start using it on this channel. I've already used it quite a few times on this channel as well. But this one hasn't been used so much because it hasn't needed nothing yet. But again, this was looked after by a very enthusiastic owner, the same as my one. Mine's only got two owners, and it was an enthusiastic owner as well. But of course, these bikes could have fell into the wrong hands. And there is many people out there that do get these and just think of doing that to them, just think they're gonna get them and redline the crap out of them. I strongly warn you not to do that to any bike. Forget just this bike, any bike, any car. You should not be hammering the hell out of these bikes. These bikes are also known, when you thrash them like that, they are gonna shoot the rod through the block. They're gonna burst a hole in their block. It's very simple. From extreme temperatures, from the engine heat, it's going to do that. One of the things people like these for is their look. And it's the astrometrical look of them. That face cannot be beaten. As people say, the Gen 1, Gen 2 is the best face of the BMW S1000Rrs. Because let's face it, nobody likes the Gen 5 and Gen 4, which I get. It doesn't look like an S1000Rr anymore. It now looks like an R1. The R1 looks like that. You've got the Ducatis looking like that. You've got BMWs looking like that. There is no difference. All the lights and everything have all become them small little lights, LED lights that they don't extinguish them, but you can't even tell when they're coming down behind you. You can't distinguish them all because of the way they all look the same. This bike, however, is very different. It stands out. People know what it is. And as the years are getting on, these are becoming a classic. More and more people are falling in love with them. More and more people are buying these because of their natural race pedigree status, where the newer ones have got too much electronics. A lot of them are having a lot of problems, especially on the Gen 5. Many of you guys probably know about all the problems it was having with the shift cam, the quick shifter, this, that, the other. But again, there were problems for someone like me I could rectify, but to your average person, they can't. So they're constantly going to BMW to the point they end up getting sick of it and think enough is enough. That's why a lot of people left BMW and went over to Ducati, but then they started having problems with them and now they don't know where to go. And it is the same for this. More and more people are coming back to these. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. When the Gen 1s come up, they sell immediately. There is no waiting around. As soon as you put them up for sale, they sell. Provided they've got everything in check, full history, which this one has, my one has, everything with them, these sell straight away. These are a great bike. They are a great buy. They're a great purchase price. Now, when you look at prices, these are around 7 to 8 grand, the Gen 1. But if you look at a Gixxer, the Gixxers, K7 1000s, K8s go around 4 or 5 grand as well. So they sit a bit cheaper than the S1000, but none of them have ABS and traction control. None of them have race ABS. So you got to factor, you're getting a lot for your money when you're paying 8 grand. Look at the bike you're getting for one. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, it's a Gixxer engine. They'd rather have BMW's own shift cam technology. And let's make no question about it, the shift cam technology is brilliant. But unfortunately, it wasn't great in the Gen 5. Now, the Gen 3 is a great, great bike. It's probably one of the best bikes, fully loaded bikes you can get with everything. The Gen 3 is the creme of de la creme of the S1000Rr world. That is the bike. You ask anyone, that is the bike. That is the best bike BMW ever released. Forget your Gen 4, forget your Gen 5. The Gen 3 is the top of the top bike you can get. Gen 4 is when they started with the shift cam and then they went forward with it in the Gen 5 and they've had no end of problems. And it was just constant, constant, constant. But with these have little to no issues. Now, a lot of people will sit here and say, oh, this has that problem, that has that problem. A lot of these problems come from immature owners. That is the truth of it, because enthusiastic people like myself, I can sit here and say this one's had no issues. The only issue it had, and it was a small issue which was rectified, was the fuel connector piece that goes under the tank, which I changed it for a metal one, because obviously many of you guys know it's plastic, brittle, breaks, starts leaking fuel, and done. I did it on both of them. I even had it on my one. And my one, I was actually riding it when it was just dropping fuel out. Again, that goes very, very missed. And then what ends up happening on them is people are trying to full power their bike when in theory, that engine is actually losing fuel because you're losing it through spitting out from your fuel tank, because that connector is actually broken. So it's all going down your engine. And while you're revving the nuts off the engine, that cylinder's not getting the right amount of fuel, which ends up blowing the engine. And a lot of people ain't aware of that. And then all of a sudden they start saying they can smell fuel. Well, of course you can smell fuel, it's leaking. But a lot of people ain't aware of that. Now, obviously, I'm one of them who's very experienced. Whatever comes up with these, I can sort it. It doesn't bother me. Whether it be engine, electronics, anything of the sort, I can sort it. But to your average person, they're not going to be able to sort that. Now you've got to think to yourself, if you really want to get one of these, can you do the maintenance yourself? Can you fix anything that goes wrong yourself? And I'll be honest, these bikes ain't hard. They're not hard at all. Fuel tank off and you've got everything right there. Now the engine valve covers is not in the best place. I've got to say that because it sits upside down. So these things John needs to drop the lower the engine a bit so you're able to get to it, but it is accessible and it is doable. It's not a hard bike to maintain, just things are very expensive, as you would expect because it's a BMW. BMW obviously is a premium, so you're going to expect to pay premium price for premium parts. But a lot of people on these don't want to do that. They want to run them as cheap as possible. A lot of people want to run them on the cheapest oil, the cheapest oil filter, the cheapest everything. And unfortunately, you can't do that. It is a premium bike. It's going to demand premium parts. That is how these bikes are. And like I said, they're a great bike for the average person. I'm not going to sit here and say they're not. They are a great bike. But you got to be respectful of them. They are a machine. They are a track machine. You don't see truck riders just jumping on a bike without the engine being warmed up and next thing just thrashing the nuts of it. Like, you know what I mean? So you don't expect the average person to do that. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't grow up with a father figure, don't grow up with anyone that actually knows anything about engines, and they just copy what they see. And as I've always said, it's monkey see, monkey do. If they see their friend thrashing it off from cold, they think it's all right for them to do it. But I'm here to tell you, that's not the way to do it. Doing that is going to only destroy your engine because the oil is still too thick. It ain't even got round to protect the engine. So all you're doing is they're going to damage the cams, going to damage your followers, going to damage everything on the top of the cylinder head. Because you've got to remember the oil sits at the bottom. It's got to pump up to the top. Till it gets up there, you're running that basically dry, especially if the bike's been sitting for a long time. The best thing you can always do is, like me, I start these bikes up, leave them to run. But like I said, as for buying one, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to go and buy one. Go and buy one. Go and buy one. But just bear in mind, if you're going to be planning to do a lot of long journeys, this isn't the most comfortable bike to be doing it on. I will strongly advise that. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the most uncomfortable because it's not. This is a lot more comfortable than my Gixxer that I had, my K7. This, I could ride for a lot longer than my Gixxer was very uncomfortable. Okay, I couldn't ride that for barely like 2 hours and without, you know, everything hurting. But this, I can ride for a lot longer than that. And it doesn't feel like a chore, like a hard job to ride it. The one thing I will say that can get mind-boggling is the vibration coming through the bars. Change your grips. You can see here, I changed these to Domino. They're a lot thicker, a lot more rubberized. BMW ones are quite thin and it lets through a lot of vibration. Also change your bar ends. You can see I've got RNG on them because that stops a lot of the vibration, and also make sure to do the update on the ECU. The update on the ECU rectifies a lot of the vibration, takes all the vibration basically to nil out coming through the handlebars. Okay, a lot of people don't believe that. It's worked on my GS, it's worked on this. I've updated both of these. They're both on the latest firmware. We don't get no vibration. I don't even think vibration is even an issue anymore. So, and that is why I'm telling you, if you are looking to purchase one of these, please be aware of them things. And like I said, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't understand what I'm saying and probably don't understand, you know, not to rev an engine from cold, but it should be basic common knowledge. I think even Google will tell you that, anyone will tell you that. You do not do that unless you want to be spending money on new bearings and new things. Listen, I've seen this I've seen this all my life. People think they're right until they're needing to do new bearings, or they've eaten up their crankshaft, or they've damaged their engine internally and then they need it rebuilt. I see it way too much. That's why I'm telling you guys, do not do it. And I'm not sitting there saying but I see it on cars, bikes, the lot. Do not do it. I've seen people's bottom ends go out on bikes where they've blown a hole through the bottom of the sump for their cotton rod going straight through the bottom of the sump as well. Like, do not do it. Let it warm up, let the oil come up to temperature, and everything will be fine. You ain't gonna be needing new rod bearings, even though people are gonna sit and tell me now that you're meant to change the bearings every every 20,000 miles on an S1000Rr. Yes, if you're tracking it, I agree. But if you're using it normally, just for normal road riding, no, you don't need to be changing the rod bearings at all. If you're doing track, then of course the engine should be torn down and fully checked, rebuilt, and whatever's needed, redo it there and then. But for road riding, no, you don't need to do that at all. Just make sure you use the right oil for your bike, because that's another big problem. People using the wrong grade oil. Wrong grade oil will completely destroy this bike. Oil is too thick. It can't get around all the gaps that's needed, especially through the crank, to protect and lubricate and through all the galleys. And what will end up happening, it will take longer to come up to temperature because the heavier the weight oil, it just won't come up to temperature. And you'll think you can thrash it. And next thing, your engine is not even protected. Make sure you always run the right oil, which the manufacturer recommends, especially BMW, because if you don't, that's where problems are going to happen. But like I said, overall, these are a great bike. There is not many issues with them, not that I've heard of, not that I've come across, not that I've had. These are great, great bikes. Ride them however you want. Just don't do it when cold. But overall, you want to go fast, this is the bike to do it on. You want to do track days, this is the bike to do it on. Because this is a perfect track bike. And let's face it, it's a beautiful looking bike as well. It's one of the best ever made bikes, in my opinion. The best looking bike you can buy. There is no other bike that compares to this, no other super bike that looks as good as this does with all the carbon and everything like that. None. There is none out there. And there still isn't, even today, that looks as good as this. I would like to see if anyone can tell me another bike that looks this good. The only one I think looks as good is the Ducati Panigale 1299S. That's the only other one that looks good. The V4 doesn't look as good as this. And that's just my take on it. But I hope many of you guys have actually enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.